Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story in which our OP, working at a Starbucks in a luxury mall, deals with a classic male Karen who crosses every line of decency. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Male Karen needs normalcy. I work in a luxury mall Starbucks, and while I love my job, people effing suck sometimes. Let me tell you all about Ryan real quick. Love that guy. One of his hands is malformed, ending in a stump, and I'm fairly sure he either has OCD or some type of cognitive issue based on his behaviors. But I've never gotten into it. I've never seen a reason to. He's a sweet guy, and that's enough. Ryan will come in, and I can always tell how long he's been in the mall by what he requests. After 1 hour walking around, he'll ask for a brown carry bag. After 2 more hours, he asks for 2 pastry bags and a sandwich bag and always carefully folds them into triangles. After another hour, he'll ask for 2 trash can liners. After 2 more hours, he'll ask for a cup of ice, tap it on the counter 3 times, turn in place, and then tap it twice more. Ryan's always polite, always gives me a smile and a compliment, always brightens my whole day. Now, sometimes he won't realize I have a customer and try to just bypass the line for one of his items, but if I tell him to wait, he always does, and he's always apologetic. I really need to paint you this picture before I get into Male Karen's intro. Male Karen's about 5'9", an inch shorter than me, little pudgy white guy with thinning blonde hair and glasses, probably in his 30s. "All right, boy, I have a question," he starts. Now look, I'm real tall. I'm flat-chested for the most part, and I keep my hair cropped because I can't afford to keep it long, so I just have a short afro. But still, I had on makeup and a convenient name tag stating my very feminine name. Plus, it's not the 40s anymore. Who refers to people they don't know as boy? I grip my teeth. "Of course, sir," I say in my most pleasantly high customer service voice. Once he realizes I'm a girl or just assumes I must be trans or something, nothing wrong with that, I'm just not it, a look of disgust crosses his face. "Listen, I just need to use my reward for a drink. I get a free drink today." "Of course, sir. If you just pull up your barcode in app and allow me to scan it, I'll be sure to ring that right up for you." "App?" he questions. "The app's on my wife's phone. Are you seriously telling me I can't get my drink?" I shrug and try to look sympathetic. "Sorry, sir. Unless you know your 16-digit account number, there's nothing I can do." He curses, says I'm incompetent, and tells me to wait while he downloads his app and calls his wife for the password. I sigh and thank God that the store is quiet. Now, here comes Ryan. He's been here about 3 hours, so he comes to the front. Male Karen has taken a step back, asks for 2 pastry bags and a sandwich bag, and asks how my classes are going. I smile and get them, telling him I'm fine, and suddenly Karen's back at the register. Excuse me, I'm ordering my drink," he snaps at Ryan, who immediately looks distressed as he fumbles and drops one of his bags. As I hand them back to him, he moves to the little ledge behind the espresso machines and starts folding his bag, which is when Karen notices his hand and his focus on folding. "God, another freak here. This used to be a good mall till they put in the bus stop here. Now anyone can just come in here and do God knows what," he said in a loud whisper to me as if I'm suddenly his companion in this. I'm fully disgusted. I just want to take his order so I can move him aside and apologize to Ryan, who at this point has stopped with his bags half folded as Karen glares at him. "So, what do you want?" I asked, trying not to flip my actual crap on this man. He waved a hand at me. "Hold on, for Christ's sakes. The R word distracted me while I was logging in." Yeah, that's it. Starbucks policy is that partners can remove customers they deem harmful, disruptive, or a possible threat. I tell him to get out. "Excuse me?" he asks. "Sir, I need you to leave." "Why? I'm buying a drink. You can't just remove me. This is ridiculous. Where's your manager?" I hold my ground. "Leave or I'm calling security." "I haven't stolen anything. I'm being better than half the people who come in here high and yell and run around this place." At this point, I assume he's either talking about black people or young people in general. "This is illegal." It's not. I shrug and make the call. The security guys are good friends of ours. The man's gone within 5 minutes, and both the guards and Ryan got a free drink and hung out in the store. Ryan seemed so excited about talking to them, I wanted to cry. They're all friends now. It was such a stupid, perfect ending. I hardly believe it. Customer service friends, remember, Karen doesn't always prevail. Anyone can be a Karen. It has no restrictions. Sometimes male Karens act even worse. And our second story. Oh, you slipped up while doing something obnoxious and technically illegal? So I have a special relationship with telemarketers. I've had the same number for maybe decades now, at least 1 decade. Way back in the day, some dude in Russia. I've spent some time in questionable corners of the internet. I pirated the source list and tracked it to the guy who created it. Managed to put a couple data points together and sell my phone number and name as part of a list for scams. I'm on both the US and India do not call lists. Every call is a violation of this. I'm pretty sure that most Indian telemarketing firms actually source the do not call list for numbers. Effers. One of the groups that got a hold of this list has been a thorn in my butt for years. They've called, sometimes daily, much less these days though, for reasons you'll soon know, for years. I'm fairly certain that it's a group of groups. They all use the same name for the front, U.S. pharmacy, but sometimes their MO will change up a bit. Sometimes they F up. This happened as a result of a particularly aggressive month of harassment and them effing up. So over the course of this month, I'm getting daily calls, multiple calls in a day. I've grown tired of effing with them over the phone, messing up their KPIs with dead leads, straining their sanity with my ignorance. I'm just done. Then I noticed the caller ID on the latest call wasn't populated, just the number. The reason this is significant is that most of these guys spoof their return number on the caller ID. They make it look like a local number and simultaneously obfuscate attempts to track the call back to them specifically. When the number is local and on the same cell carrier, the caller ID returns the name registered to the number. The fact that this one didn't implied the possibility that the number wasn't being properly spoofed. Fun fact, it was a very recent development at the time that the courts had determined that phone carriers on U.S. soil were liable for the misuse of their system by their clients, regardless of the origin of the client activity. Violations of the do not call list are misuse. I did a carrier lookup on the number and found it was registered to a California-based VoIP provider. Effing jackpot. I checked the last few calls and sure enough, same provider. Effing royal flush. I'm still being irrationally decent to these folks, so I decide I'm going to give the U.S. carrier an opportunity to do right. I go through my call history for the month and record every number and timestamp that doesn't have a populated ID. I compile the list in a text file as tab-separated value format. Still just a basic text file, though. I add a column for the carrier lookup data as well that points straight at them. They have no ground to stand on, and they can either step up or get smacked the F down. I look up the contact details for the U.S. carrier, and I write them a polite email that essentially tells them, here's data representing my substantial call history for the last month just from your client in a text file that absolutely shows you are enabling circumvention of the United States federal do not call list, as well as the do not call list for India by your client, U.S. Pharmacy based in India. Here are the court documents detailing the precedent of your liability for this violation by your clients. I'm giving you a chance to remedy this situation before I go to the FCC with my findings. Either you provide evidence that you've dropped them as a client per your customer agreement policies and the calls stop, or I drop the effing nuke. They responded saying they couldn't open the text file. Bad move. You know who was able to open the file? The FCC. I did the math on the fines that these calls would have generated against the carrier. $43 million, give or take. All the revenge and time wasting is superb. But major kudos to OP for pursuing the enablers and inconveniencing the instigators. And our last story. Neighbors state they own our driveway. My husband and I bought our home about 9 months ago, and so far we've had mixed experiences with our neighbors. One of them's been great, but the other, not so much. We're in the countryside of New York, so we don't have to interact with them all that often, thankfully. But this afternoon, those not-so-great neighbors decided to drop a bomb on us. They casually mentioned that they technically own part of our driveway. They claimed to have had it reassessed recently and said that the prior owners of our property had a verbal agreement with them, allowing us to use the driveway even though they allegedly own a part of it. Now they want us to enter into a similar agreement, either verbally or in writing. My husband and I were caught off guard by this, so we played it cool and said we needed time to think about it. As soon as we got back inside, we ran to check our deed. To our relief, the property lines in our official assessment clearly show that the entire driveway is within our property. There's no mention of any shared ownership or special agreements. What's more, the same assessment has been in place since at least 2015 when the prior owners purchased the property, so this isn't some recent mistake. Still, we're worried about these neighbors. They haven't been very friendly in the past, and during today's conversation, they hinted at putting up a fence on their property line if we didn't agree to their terms. Our driveway is already pretty narrow, running up a hill, so losing even a small part of it could cause serious issues with access. The only proof they're citing is verbal agreements with past owners and some mysterious assessment they supposedly had done. But from our end, everything we've seen shows that the driveway is completely ours. Update. My brother's a lawyer, so we decided to play hardball. He took a close look at our deed and confirmed what we already knew. The driveway is entirely ours, and there's no record of any easement or shared ownership. We told our neighbors that we had reviewed all the official documentation and consulted with a lawyer. We also let them know that we'd be happy to meet with their assessor to review any documentation they could provide, but until then, we wouldn't be entering into any agreements, verbal or otherwise. That must have shaken them a bit because suddenly their talk of putting up a fence died down. After several awkward exchanges over the next week, they finally admitted that they didn't have any paperwork to back up their claims. It turns out the verbal agreements were probably just stories passed down over the years with no legal basis. In the end, we drafted a letter outlining our property rights and reminding the neighbors that any attempt to block our driveway would lead to legal action. After that, they backed off entirely. Now we don't have to worry about our driveway being blocked or any surprise fences popping up. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.